let's look at the Matchbox supply chains. Got a little graph here with four different quadrants in it. So let's take a look and see what's different about it. When we talk about low economies of scale, that's a pull strategy. So in other words, if it's not, if the money is an issue, if it's huge, we're going to save a massive amount of money, okay, because you have a large economy of scale. In other words, you can buy a lot of more product, and the more you buy, the lower the per item cost is. Then you're going to call for a push strategy because of the fact that you want to have all that cost savings captured. If it's low economies of scale, in other words, it doesn't really matter if you buy, 50 here, 50 there, or 40 there, if it's a matter of they're $5 a piece. Okay, well, it could be, it depends on your budget, how big you are. But that being said, if it's low economy stuff, you have a pull strategy and you wait for the consumer to pull the stuff through the system. But if it's high economies of scale, all of a sudden you're saying, I can save 100 grand if I buy a big container of this. Whoa, 100 grand. Okay, so then you're going to sit down and overlook the fact that you may get stuck holding a little bit of excess inventory because the excess inventory may more than make up for the big massive savings you'll have. So whenever you see high economies of scale, push strategy. Low economies of scale, I need it now. Okay, here we go. And you buy smaller chunks. That's going to pretty much be a pull strategy almost all the time. Keep those two in mind. And low demand uncertainty and high demand uncertainty, you're going to say, oh, am I going to get it? I'm not certain. Push, push, push. Okay, so you have that high demand uncertainty. Okay, calls for a pull strategy. Okay, so you're looking in the process as to low volume, you're going to look in the aspect of push, and then high volume pull. So it depends where you're at. Everything being equal, and sometimes it's not, but everything being equal, high demand uncertainty has a preference for managing the supply chain based upon realized demand, and smaller uncertainty leads to managing the system managed on a long-term forecast, which is usually push. So whenever you see long-term, you're going to assume it's push in the process rather than pull. So economies of scale, if that's a big part of it. If you're pushing product that costs a large amount of money, okay, make the assumption you're going to generally have a push strategy in the process. So think about that when you're looking at that. So economies of scale are not important. If it then push strategy makes sense. Here's the chart that we're using. You can kind of see the demand uncertainty, the push and the pull. And then on the bottom, you can see low economies of scale and high economies of scale. You can kind of see the high aspect over here. So demand uncertainty, you're going to look in the different quadrants, and you're going to help that decide which is the push and the pull strategy in the process. So we'll talk about each one of them. So box number one, okay, Dell computers. So if you look in the top left-hand corner, that's one. Dell Computers, we just talked about that case, okay, and hopefully you read it. I think it's a fascinating case. You're looking at the aspect of a pull-based strategy chain. It's appropriate for this industry. So you're looking at the aspect, normally you're going to wait for pull. And if you go into Dell, what is Dell? It is directly manufacturer OEM right to the consumer. You're skipping everything in the middle. And Dell is custom making the computer for each individual. So it makes sense that this is a pull strategy. You can't sit down there, start forcing stuff through, push, because you're waiting for the consumer to respond to you. Now, look at box number three, groceries. Okay, low demand, uncertainty, and high economies of scale. Okay, in a grocery store, you're going to be looking at on different aspects of it, but look at the products you find in the grocery store. You have a lot of perishable items. You need to get them through the system. Okay, so that being said, the demand for it's quite stable. All people always find bananas appealing, of course, and they buy them a bunch. And they go ape over them too. But anyway, so reducing the transportation cost by shipping full truckloads is critical to controlling that cost. A pull strategy may not be appropriate. You're going to have a push strategy because you're going to have a constant flow of demand. People will always want to get their bananas. They'll always want to get their groceries. They'll always want to get their canned goods. So you have that, and the overall cost of the item is relatively low, so you can afford to push it. And the worst that happens is you might lose some inventory, but the reality is you'll if you time it just right, you can sit there and have a constant flow throughout the system. Unless you have a weather problem or some type of other glitch in the system, you can pretty much count that you're going to have a good certainty of that. So boxes one and three represent situations where it's kind of easy to identify the supply chains. computers, especially computers that are custom made, okay, those you sit down and you wait for the customer to ask for them. It's a pull strategy. Things like groceries, relatively low cost, high volume items, you're going to sit down and push them through. So 1 and 3 are really a good, easy way to sit down and start thinking about supply chain management. Now, you're going to look at boxes 2 and 4. Okay, there's a mismatch because the strategies have two attributes: uncertainty and the importance of economies of scale. I mean, how many couches can you sit there and stop on a truck? That actually is part of the issue. So what can you do? Apparel. Okay, what happens if you get box shipping over here and all of a sudden you're fighting fast fashion? You're selling high end polos at $30 a piece. Okay, and all of a sudden you get one of the Timu or whatever you have in China coming out, cranking out with the fast fashion. They're selling something similar for $5.99. Boom, boom, boom. And all of a sudden, boom, they change markets 60 days later, and you're stuck with something. So you have that issue to worry about the mismatch of strategy. So a lot of apparel products, they like men's white shirts. Here's an example over here for box 4. So it's apparel, low demand uncertainty. It's going to be a push-based supply chain because you're looking at, okay, apparel that's always suggested in the process. So men's white shirts, if that's a constant and it's a staple of the item, you can rest assured it really is a pull-based strategy. Okay, but it's one of these things you have a flow because your flow of your supply chain a lot of times is overseas, really focusing in on your Asian countries, and you'll see them coming through, and it takes time to get through the system. So you'll see a push strategy or a pull strategy because you have to deal with fast fashion now. So you'll have that over here. So it's kind of a push pull strategy, and you have that invisible line there in the process. So box 4, you look at high margin products that are risky. So you're looking at different things on the low margin products that are less risky. So you're looking at the push pull boundary there, and sometimes the high margin. You're more prone to have on boxes. Really, we look in on boxes 2 and 4. You're more prone to use that push pull strategy on those on a regular basis, but you'll have to make the decision. But really, you really want to have the end people forecast dominating as best as possible on the push pull strategy. So the furniture industry is one example. Their bulky products have a super high delivery cost. Okay, you really want to make certain that the customers really want them, but you want to have a good, healthy warehouse in the process just as well. So you have that aspect of it. The production strategy on a pull-based strategy, it's impossible to make decisions based on long-term strategies, forecast, because of the fact that are people going to buy this pattern and this style? And that's why you have a lot of giant stores, a lot of giant furniture warehouse stores out there that the consumer have with a pull strategy, and to some extent you have the push pull in the process. Economies of scale and the certainty or uncertainty, man, are what really drive a huge amount of the supply chain. And for you to be proficient at it, you're going to have to get the balance of it because every single industry is different. And my experience on almost anything in the world of business is everything goes on a cycle, an annual cycle, and it's different. Just because you think you know what it is for 3 months, the fourth month and the fifth month could be totally different. It just depends on what the cycle is. You have a cycle, pay attention to the cycle that you have. It takes about 3 to 5 years to get the hang in one industry as to what the business cycle is. And that way you'll get the idea as to should I use a push-pull strategy, pull or a push strategy. All those are based upon experience. And also, the experience doesn't have to be yours. It could actually be loaded up in a computer based upon past practice, and you can actually go back and analyze that as well. Take care.